was coming to visit Stanford CDDRL 4 years ago. My research interest was focused on the why nations fail, why democracies fail, and how to overcome these difficulties. What methodology can help us to overcome problems related with populism, corruption, abuse of executive power. In that time, I was thinking Mongolia's democracy is very fragile. Mongolia's democracy is facing retreat and crisis maybe. So I was looking for better methodologies, practical ways on the solution of problem. So we did it synergetically with James Fishkin from Center on Deliberative Democracy, with CDDRL, Larry Diamond, Francis Fukuyama. So we are very thankful to our distinguished professors.
Deliberative polling is a practical method to answer the question, what would the people think under really good conditions for thinking about it? So we take a scientific sample of the population, we engage it in arguments for and against different policy options, and those good conditions that they think about the issue under are small group discussions that are moderated, questions to competing experts, and we have a questionnaire both when we first contact the sample and at the end of the process. And we see the opinion changes, and we understand why the opinions change. So this is a practical method to implement what I call deliberative democracy. Not a democracy of sound bites and headlines and fake news, but a democracy where the people get good information and they can think in depth and share their concerns and interests.
Usually, corruption and abuse of power, clientelism is one of the main problems of developing democracies, young democracies. So, other hand, populism is widely spread virus in the world. So, the deliberative polling is the best methodology, best form of democracy to solve this problem simultaneously. That is why I decided to introduce deliberative polling in Mongolia.
The reason this is so important is all over the world, there's the problem of constitutional change. Many countries give it to a referendum, and the results of our deliberative poll may eventually go to a referendum. But a referendum by itself is not deliberative, it's not thoughtful. People just have an impression of sound bites and headlines, and they don't really think in depth. And we all see experience around the world of difficult experiences with referendums changing on constitutional issues. This law is the first time a law was passed requiring deliberative polling as an important legal matter. And many of the deliberative polls have had consequences in different policy areas. But this is the first time in constitutional change to allow the people of Mongolia to consider the arguments for and against different proposals which have been discussed by policy elites for years. But what would the people think? What would the people think if they really could hear all the arguments on either side and get their questions answered? That's what we're going to find out. So this is the voice of the people.
According to the law, all local organizations, local communities, which we call SUMs, are required to conduct deliberative polling on the local development fund expenditures. In other words, SUM governor or local municipality governors should conduct deliberative polling with the representatives of scientific samples of the population, should deliberate on the budget proposals, expenditures of local development fund. And at national level, we are going to conduct the constitutional amendment is required, but also if decision-making bodies will decide to conduct deliberative polling, it's open in these legal practices.
The new law is for national constitutional amendments and national issues, but it also has requirements for localities deliberating as well. But we're going to start with this national project, which is based upon the success of the project we did last year in Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital city and has close to half the population of the country. And based on that experience, we think we can gather, as Zandan said, the whole country in one place to deliberate in depth about a series of proposed constitutional amendments that have been talked about by the experts and policy elites and members of parliament for a number of years. But nobody knows what the people would think about them. And if there was a public opinion polling about them, these issues are complex enough that the public would just have an impression of sound bites or headlines. But in the deliberative process, they discuss them in depth with balanced briefing materials. This is embedded in the law thanks to the leadership of Zandan and his colleagues in Mongolia, who saw the merit of it. So I salute him for his leadership in doing this. And this is all because Zandan came to CDDRL as a fellow to think about democracy. And so it's a wonderful story about the power of intellectual visits and how his coming here has allowed him to plant a seed in his own country, which could actually set an example for other countries about how to thoughtfully and in a representative way involve the people in constitutional reforms. So we are very excited about this.